All right, staying on the Madiba legacy, joining us now in studio to chat about how we are faring as a nation in the bid to create a better life for all South Africans is Right2Know, Alfred Shabalala. Alfred, thank you for joining us. So first and foremost, what does Mandela Day mean to you?
Good morning. Mandela Day means a lot to us because it brings that legacy. It reminds us how did you go to this freedom that we are having, the liberation. It tells us of how we are a constitutional state because this is where it emanates. He is the one who actually advocated all these things, and we are actually enjoying to be part of this, and we're thinking that it's time for the right to know to really be an issue among the communities, among the people of South Africa. We would like to see this time the government being able to advocate issues of promoting the right to protest, allowing the communities to express themselves, your access to information, because people need to know. At the moment, we are talking of the land issues and all these things. We need people to understand these issues and be promoted. We've got a constitutional court which is able to guide us in terms of ensuring that we actually observe these rights as the country. We have got issues of secrecy in this country, which we think that they must be challenged in as much as we can, because you don't need a democracy that is constantly guided by secrecy, because we don't believe in that.
Right, so Alfred, tell us how your organization spent Mandela Day and some of the activities it was involved in.
Our organization is a campaign that advocates freedom for all. It actually promotes, as just indicated, that people must access knowledge and as far as they can. So we're looking at the communities on the floor, on the ground there. We're looking at the manner in which they are remaining behind. We think that there's much that has to be done, and we are running campaigns that are consciously taking our nation together. Can you take us through some of those campaigns? Well, our campaigns, we're dealing with a number of things. For instance, we are dealing with issues that are dealing with secrecy and deeper. The way in which biometrics have been used in this country to steal information from the people without them knowing, or in terms of that, you know how information that is very sensitive has been abused in terms of them being required to give their information. From thereafter, nobody's taking care of those information in terms of, and just being abused, just be abandoned somewhere there, and you find that really they're exposed to a number of issues. So we think that this country has to do away with such things, because it actually at the same time means that there's a high level of crimes that you experience as a result of that. You find the person being part of a crime without knowing how it did come about, because the data has been used very carelessly. I'm sure you know that kind of the cyber crime that we are experiencing now of late in this country, the high levels of corruption that our people have been subjected to. But more and over is the lack of education that is being given to people free as it's supposed to be, in terms of your constitution that says that all people will have an access to this education, to the live water, to the waters, to the basic services. So what we are doing, we are running a campaign of awareness to show them that what are the rules, what are the laws that are involved, which they must follow, that they must use as the citizens in order to be in a position to be counted. I mean, there are a lot of examples that we can make to show that most of our people on the ground are not really exposed in terms of what of their real right that the Constitution is bringing about.
Alfred, let me bring you back to Mandela Day and the celebrations. Do you feel that the day was more of a distraction, or do you think it actually zeroed in on some of the problems and issues that are facing South Africans, in your opinion?
Well, what I feel is that Mandela Day has been used as a celebration which in a very divisive manner. The people who are already up there, people who are of a good status, celebrating, having cocktails and all that thing. Nothing was interpreted to the floor. Nothing was taken to the ground to make people to see what are the people are enjoying on the ground. There are as much problems that people are facing today. When they hear the word Mandela, they get confused. They don't know what actually Mandela had in mind when about this time of the year. I mean, this is 2018. Is this 100 years? I mean, the way the man was fighting for freedom and everything, you'll think that things will be advanced now. If you think of what the Freedom Charter was containing, you'll think that things would be equality, rights, and all that. All those things we haven't achieved as the country yet. People are celebrating to be in power there, international relations, which don't say much to the bigger majority of the South Africans. So the Mandela Day must come to the issue wherein we have a focus on the ground wherein we try to now to make it relevant to the people of South Africa, because this is where it's supposed to begin, to change lives. Mandela was a life changer. You know, Mandela established a number of things. He proved to the world that you could fight against a very powerful system which was oppressive. So the whole oppression thing is not being focused on. People are just celebrating because they were in power at some point. And what they did there was not to focus on what Mandela predicated. What they've been focusing on was to embrace the power, to empower themselves, to enrich themselves, sometimes very illegitimately. So it doesn't interpret to the needs of the people on the ground. But then we are positive that it has to do that at some point.
So your organization would direct your feelings to who? Who can change that to make it what it should be?
Firstly, the communities have got the power to do that, because the communities, that's why we're saying, allow the right to protest. Allow people to express their views so that you understand what are the problems the communities are facing, so that you are able, without that, you can't do anything, because the people who are in power there, they are looking things differently from the people on the ground. The conditions that are prevailing where the people are very poverty-stricken conditions, which when you are in power normally, you don't even understand them. So people have got a way in which they want to involve the powers that are there. The state, of course, the state is one powerful resource that can be used, but it cannot only be used because of the people who are governing the country. It has to be used because people on the ground are allowed to state their views on how they should see their problems through, because most in the ground are problems and problems and problems, as you might just imagine. So this is where the power should be. This is where the things should be. But when people are going to protest, you've got police who are using power to suppress. You've got the rules that are blocking them not to take their issues on. You've got subscriptions that people must pay for them just to go for a protest. These are inhibitions. These are serious inhibitions that are making the real ideas on the ground to work in order to improve the situation as it is now.
Barack Obama had an inspiring speech. It had great reviews. Everyone embraced his speech. What's your impression of that speech and its impact on South Africans and the youth?
Well, let's call it a good speech. I mean, Obama has been a president. President Obama was there in America. He saw the issue of Comrade Mandela from the view of international relations. Now, they were seeing it as a liberator, which is good. I mean, when you are liberating, it's two things we are talking about. It's about liberating the country from the state of oppression, from the power that has been. But that is not the ultimate point. The ultimate point is to liberate the conditions that are faced by the people on the ground. So Obama would not understand those things. Obama will understand the power from behind. Obama will look at our law systems, the way we change them, because we've got a good constitution, as we're always told. That it should interpret, in my view, to the ground. It should make a difference to the people of South Africa. I mean, it's more than 20 years we've been in this liberation, as in terms of the constitution and and all those things. It is not working. People are still starving. People are still sinking on the toilets. Children are still sinking on the toilets there. It means you don't have even sanitary, proper sanitary kind of provision. So there's a lot that we must work on. We've got rural areas here where people don't even access water or clean water as they are supposed to do. So the real basic conditions that we've been addressing through the provisions that Obama will say is good on paper. So when he reads that the South Africa has advanced very well, which we are saying is not wrong, definitely, but it should encourage us as South Africans to go far deeper than that, because the issue of the land, that is not resolved. Today, ANC just went to the conference the other year, which is last year, by the way, and only talk about this distribution of land, among others, and expropriation of land. And look at the confusion where we are in. People are interpreting it differently, even at the world stage. That tells you there's so much that has to be done. So people's rights to know has to be really done with and be worked on in a context that is empowering. It's about people now more than the world, more than the world stages that we see is happening. This is why I'm saying it's a class issue now. You've got people who are doing well are saying, oh, we have done so much, Mandela has done for us that much. Whereas in actual fact, the intention that Mandela had was to really unearth the ground, to make life so different, because he realized that the oppressive regime of South Africa under apartheid, although it was a very rich system even that time, but it was only looking at one section of the people of South Africa. Today we have done the same thing. We've changed just the colors there and there. We have become a rainbow nation that is not caring about the fundamental conditions that are happening. So this is our concern as the campaign, is that we must go deeper than what we are doing. We must go really to the real issues and try to make sure that people are getting to what we are saying South Africa is today. There's too much at stake. People are suffering while other people are corrupt and eating money. All those things that are happening is like we are not looking at the state that we are running as a country. That will blame it to those who are in government. You know what is happening. You know even the ruling party is unable to control its cadres in government. So those are problems that we don't want to see continuing in this country. We need this country to come to a situation where it says we are actually taking our equality seriously as a clause of the Constitution, the same way as it should happen on the ground as it unfolds.
Well, I've been hearing a lot of problems. What would you say is a sound solution? If you could take one step tomorrow, what would that step be towards a better solution and a better culture for Mandela Day?
One step for Mandela Day?
If you could take one step towards a solution, what would that be?
Is to check what we call poverty conditions that people on the ground are facing. Is to look at what we call Freedom Charter, to look those resolutions that were taken long before Mandela came to power, even before he went to prison. I think it was somewhere in 1955, and look the intentions there and start to say the program that once we used to call RDP, which was a program that was saying reconstruction and development, where did we miss the point? Where did we lose the focus? And then start to look at the issues now, because issues are really worsening up. That's why you see people are still burning tires on the street today for them to be listened at. I will just put the people who are going to power into a real oath that says, I am going to serve the citizens of this country. I'm going to ensure that I'm dealing with the issues. You don't need to see South Africa that we see today. Because if you go to the city of Johannesburg, for instance, and compare it even before we went to the liberation, before when the apartheid system was there, you look, it's deteriorating. Now you ask yourself, don't we have the budget from the state to deal with these issues? You have a situation whereby there is no proper management even among the people who are staying in that place. That's why you're experiencing a hell over the xenophobic attacks. You've got people who are not managed, who are running economy because nobody is watching that. Everybody's eyes is watching the state coffers and everybody is busy empowering themselves. I will start with that. I will really focus on that and say something has gone wrong here. The governance of this country must be put into order in order to deliver the proper service that we deserve as a country.
All right. Alfred, thank you for your insights. I wish we had a little bit more time, but thank you and hope to speak to you again real soon. That was Alfred Shabalala from Right2Know giving us his take on the Nelson Mandela Day.